I think there's a combination of things, right? If you put me in front of a crowd of non-golf pros and say, you're supposed to be a good singer. Here's a song you should be able to sing. If you say you're a George Strait singer, you ought to be able to sing this Garth Brooks song. Okay, here, Calling Baton Rouge, I'm sure you've heard it at Tiger Stadium 3,000 times. What we got to do? Bring it down 2. Okay, here we go. Sing in front of you. I'm going to sing better the bigger the crowd. First of all, y'all don't want to hear me sing. Second of all, you need a couple of ladies in the room. Third of all, if you got enough people in the crowd, there's no one person in the crowd anymore. You can pick one out to sing to, but I'm going to sing better the more people it is. I think some teachers would teach better in front of 1,000 people than they would in front of nobody, but I think most of them choke. They just choke. They're not really good on the line teachers anyway. I'm not saying David, but I'm just saying it can happen to anybody. I could finally get to do it on the main stage at the PGA Teaching and Coaching Summit and lay the biggest pterodactyl egg of all time. I don't think I would. If you gave me 5 students, I would hit 1 home run and drop the mic and walk off the stage. But you should give the lesson as if the whole country's watching it. So here we go. Hey, see when I'm skinny how much better I look? So I got a new series coming out, video, online thing, like on all the socials. And it's going to be, the first thing is going to be this exact statement. There is no book, video, system, software, or product, like, TrackMan, JCV, that will tell you that John Ortega will play his best golf in whatever the highest level, because you're going to, whatever it is. If you, like me, my highest level, 99% of the time is the Nunez Tour. It's 25 guys that grew up together and the next best person's a 9, okay? And I'm a +2 and we're playing from about 6,000 yards. So there are certain patterns that work better on the Nunez Tour of mine. There's nobody going to tell me that. There's nobody going to tell you that James O needs to be a little bit more upright than he ever did to play his best golf. There is no book, no software, no nothing. You have to figure that out with the help of the student. So that's the first thing. Nobody's going to tell you what pattern is the best. Trevino came up with that by accident. Nicholas came up with that by accident. I played college golf with somebody who worked with Jack Grout and took more lessons from him than Nicholas did, and it didn't look anything like Jack's swing. So your job as a teacher is figuring out what pattern and then getting them to do it so it can function on the golf course. That's what teaching is. Not, I got a system, I'm Hank Haney, I'm going to put 500 balls in a row, and I'm going to, and Charles Barkley, Ray Romano, and Tiger Woods are all going to get the same lesson. Probably not from me. Ray Romano should have been the easiest series in the history of mankind. An avid slicer. That's all he was. And Hank thinks he's a slice fixer. It didn't work. I don't think he even liked him at the end. That's what teaching's all about. There's a human being in front of you, and you have to be, not everybody can do this. Not everybody can go from teaching her to teaching the daughter and then teaching Nelly Corda, right? And, this is just one of the times I showed off and proved I could do it. Not all these lessons are going to be the same, right? 2 guys I played 1,000,000 hours of football with until we got too old to play. I know these guys like brothers of mine. Can't give them the lesson like David at Tampa, probably 2012. That kid's 11 now, right? First time he ever hit a golf ball. There's just no way they're the same lesson. Even if the pattern was the same. Even if, you know what? Little Van needs David's normal David Toms pattern, and so does Ronald Winfrey and Leo Bailey. It's still going to be different words, different inflection, different expectations, different, and that's part of doing it, We talked about that already. Yeah, this is an interesting little thing right here as a musician. a jazz musician, Van Morrison's kind of a jazz singer, you know, not a pop singer. And people would always get mad. They would go to a concert and he would sing Brown Eyed Girl like a completely different way. And they would go, it's singing like the record. Like, you know, a real musician doesn't want to do it exactly like the record. But people pay for that. So like, you know, if you get a guitar solo from Jimmy Page probably 30 years ago, he'd play Stairway to Heaven solo, pretty much 3/4 of it close to the record. Then he would just go off and do something different. Try to give clinics and beginner lessons, just try to vary it a little bitty bit. First of all, keep you from getting bored. And second of all, you may come up with something doing it a little bit different. But this is the golf lesson. This guy shows up for a lesson. He puts up these numbers and hits this shot. Why did this golf ball go where it did as exactly as possible? Not what does this golfer do that I don't like? I hate club faces that open. They are guys in the history books with this exact backswing that could have gave me 5 aside. Now, this guy couldn't, but that's not the point. Why did that ball go there? What is the easiest way to attack that ball flight right away so that A, the ball flight's better, that's what he's there for probably, and B, it doesn't bastardize him for future improvement. That, at the end of the day, is what a golf lesson is. Hey, Tiger Woods. Okay, so I stood in the Atlanta airport. We were running from another hurricane and was flying home and had like, my plane got like delayed 3 hours and the D plane was a new concept. And I took Sam Snead, a black and white Sam Snead, and the 12th hole at Augusta because it's downhill, okay, and drew a version of this. So this is the D plane, right? And this is what made that ball go there, that and where it hits on this face, okay? So we're gonna get back to that picture in a little bit. Okay, so some of this stuff was just, right? The ball's in contact with the club for 3/4 of an inch. It just doesn't hit the ball and the ball takes off. 3/4 of an inch. That's how long that is. 45 not micros, but milliseconds. While it's on the face closes a little bit less than a degree. So low rate of closure, high rate of closure, it changes it like a degree, 1/10 of a degree. So like a high rate of closure person might be 0.9 and a low rate of closure person is about 0.7. So there's probably been nothing in the history of golf that's more useless than working on high rate or low rate of closure because the difference is going to be, it might look different on video, and I'm not saying. You're going to swing this club, and at some point, it's going to have enough energy that it's going to behave like an arc. It's going to stabilize. So you can consider that what we're doing is, what's the biggest, longest, John, most flexible, long thing we have in here? Like, you know, we could use a alignment stick, but you have something longer than that?
You want something, one of those rubber band things?
No, something that's pretty solid that I can bend.
Okay.
I wanted to curve it. Did I curve it?
Let me get out of the way. I was standing.
Oh, that's fine. Perfect. If you could hold that for me, thank you so much. That's exactly the shot I wanted right there. I'm just kidding. It was a pull hook. Pretty good though. All right. I want the ball up, curve, so we can talk about the curve. Boy, I hit that ball straighter than I wanted to. Okay. So, when you're looking at these numbers, right, TrackMan numbers, you look at this screen, people do not put that many numbers on the screen generally, right? I highly recommend it. The bottom is pretty much what the club did, okay? So the first thing that's going on is you made a golf swing. And that golf swing, you know, has some kind of a radius, right? Swing radius, which is the left number, left row, middle number, 45 inches. So what TrackMan is saying from, this is wrong here, Okay, so this was, I had to find this is like a 3-month-old version of this presentation, and I learned because I just did that TRACKMAN thing online, and I did a little research. Ooh, swing radius is, they're calculating it from right about there, just below club parallel on a downswing, to just before impact. And it's an average radius. So 45 inches, right? Okay, so here we go. 24-inch bass drum, 22-inch rod cymbal, 45 inches. So it's like this, right? Like that. All right, now, it's on an angle, 55-degree angle. It has a direction, in this case, pretty damn straight, right? 0.4. All right, where did I hit that ball on the circle? 0.7 inches before the bottom of the swing. So somewhere around where this yellow grip cap starts right there. That's about 0.7 inches. So the swing direction and the path aren't going to be that much different, right? Because it's still going out, the bottom of that cap, when I bend it like this, is still going down and out.
Did you say when you hit it before? I think that's his A.
No, low point.
Oh, low point. Okay.
Low point, the low point was 0.7 inches ahead of me hitting the ball.
Okay.
But the ball was hit 0.7 inches before low point.
Okay.
I know that's because they have it A and B, but that's correct. But I wasn't talking about where low point is. I was saying where I hit it. So I hit it there. So it's just, so the point is all of these numbers are just one thing, and then all of those numbers, then they have a club face, right? In the club face, the TRACKMAN is reporting, you'll see this in the slide in a second, is normal to the club face, like a lie angle tool. Throw that T, James, that plastic T. Boy, how about that? I was going to bounce it up there to myself, and I bounced it off my hands. So this, right? That's the face. So here we go. And 56 degrees. I just said all this. Okay. Low point, right? All right. So there are two numbers that I have stacked right over the top of each other that are saying the same thing two different ways. Low point distance is the low point was 0.7 inches ahead of where the ball was hit. And if I look at that circle that was 45 radius on a 55 angle, and I get down here like this, and I look at the last little part of the circle relative to the ground, that's the attack angle, 0.8 degrees. But those two numbers are not the same exact way to describe it, but they're the same instance, right? That's just two different ways to do it. And you'll find in lessons, especially with people that haven't hit a lot of balls on TRACKMAN, they're better off with the low point number. Look at Mrs. Fabersham. I want you to get that low point ahead. It's 2 inches behind. That's why you're thinning it, right? But it's the same number. Just a couple of little TRACKMAN things here. That's what we just said. Okay. The angle of attack is relative to the horizon and not the slope. Okay. So if I got one of these, whoa. This was sort of the end of my golf career, this shot right here. I had this shot at Spanish Bay. All I had to do was, it was on downhill, it was a little ditch, and it went uphill like this, and then the green was, and right where it got to the wall right there, it went off the end of the world, right? Yeah. And so, didn't know my buddies were videoing. About like that. I took my wedge and I went, this 1 out of 100. Little spin, obviously came off really low, hit the bank, went up there 4 feet, and I walked over to the 4-footer with my 35-inch putter in my old Langer stance like this, and knocked it right in the left center. Me and my paw went to the next hole. When we showed that video to Ben Doyle, What is that? When he was looking at my putting stroke and said, I'd rather miss it. So I tried to take that putting stroke and make it look pretty, and I've never putted really good again, not one day. And that was my 33rd birthday. I'm 62 and a half. Now, that shot I hit, right, to the slope was probably like 4 or 5 down. But to the horizon was like 34 down. So TrackMan is trying to give you, the to the horizon number as your angle of attack. So you see path, okay? All that path is this little yellow thing, right? Or let's say you hit it way before low point. So that would be like a Joe Mayo 10-degree down pitch shot, right? All right, so that little piece, 3/4 inch piece right there, where is that pointing if this whole thing's 10 degrees down? Probably more to John, even though the swing direction is at the camera here, right? So from that little 3/4 inch, half-inch little part of that circle, TrackMan is giving you 2 numbers from that one little vector. The path was to the target 5 degrees inside, 10 degrees inside out, and the angle of attack was 10 degrees down. So it was 10 inside out and 10 down, let's say. 2 numbers, but it's really just one vector. It's very obvious. The baseline of this arc may not be the target line. It was pretty close to it that time, but somehow people think the baseline's always on the target. All right, this is a mini lie. TrackMan says we give you the numbers at max compression. Okay, so swing radius, low point, height and distance and all that stuff, deep plane tilt, those numbers, Brian Manzella had those numbers 12 years ago. They just released them to the public a month ago. I'm not the only person, but maybe a couple dozen people in the world had those numbers turned on. You had to know somebody, you had to make a special request, and they had to turn them on. Now, why wouldn't they have turned them on before? Because you imagine the phone calls they're getting. No, I don't understand what deep plane tilt is. That'd burn up a lot of your customer service hours right there. Instead of getting your damn thing to work, you got people asking questions like, what is swing radius? I don't understand. Radius of what? So they're saying clubhead path, let's say 1.2 on that inside out at maximum compression. But what they don't really tell you is the truth. Every instance that ball and club are touching each other, the club is influencing the ball and the ball is influencing the club. And all of that is like a million different D planes that sum up to one, and that's the one. And then they say, well, max compression, because that's an easy way to say it. But, it's like telling the kid about the stork. Easy way to say it. My favorite slide in the TrackMan part of this presentation. This is a different number. They got people who have traveled the world talking about TrackMan, and they get this, what are they called? Conflated, I think is the right word. Yeah, the same. They're not. So static loft, you bring in your 5-iron, you give it to Johnny, he goes on the loft and line machine, says 30 degrees. Static loft. At impact, I got the grip to lean 10 degrees forward, but all shafts are in lead somewhat. So that means, let's say 2 degrees of that. So that means the hosel is leaning 8 degrees forward. And when it hit the ball, that's delivered loft. Dynamic loft, which is the TrackMan number, is all of these delivered loft plus or minus factors, including but not exclusive of the angle of attack, shaft behavior, the release, face to path, horizontal and gear effect. Right? Because you take a wedge and you hit it low in the face, TrackMan's going to give you a dynamic loft lower than your delivered loft by a lot, because it's going to hit the bottom of the face and it's going to smash the thing this way. So this is a different number than this, is the point of that. TrackMan reports clubhead path is just that little 1 inch thing right there from this view, right? It's 3D, but they're reporting it as 2D. Where the face is 2D, right? Spin loft. Okay, spin loft. All right, spin loft. On that shot, my spin loft was 18.6 degrees. So people think, oh, spin loft, it's dynamic loft plus angle of attack. It gives you spin loft. No, it's simplified. So on this shot, dynamic loft 17 degrees, angle of attack 0.8. So 17.4 plus 0.8, because 0 would be 17.4 would be the spin loft. See? Angle of attack 0, 17.4 dynamic loft. Spin loft would be 17.4. On 0, look, by the way, this is 0 path to club face, which this is not, okay? Just to show you why what I'm telling you is right, okay? So 17.4 up, 0.8 down, spin loft, if it was just those two numbers, would be 18.2. But it wasn't 18.2. It was 18.6 because there's a component this way too, right? So what if the path were, what if the face were 15 degrees open and the path was 10 degrees outside in? You see how these two things would start, whatever this slice of pizza is like this, right? And say, oh, that's the spin loft. But if the path and a club face go like this, that pizza got a lot bigger. And that's the pizza that's telling you. Okay, so the D plane, right, stands for descriptive plane. There's a bar bet, right? Theodore Jorgensen worked on the Manhattan Project, blowing up the world, and D plane blew up the golfing machine, which is kind of interesting. And introduced it in his book, The Physics of Golf, which is okay book, not great. The 3D path of the club. Okay, so the bottom of the D plane on that shot was this. Swing direction. So the bottom of the D plane, right? So here we go. The 3D path of the club, which is the path was 1.2 to right, and the angle of attack was 0.8 left. That's the bottom of the D plane. The top of the D plane, 0, 0 right there. Top of the D plane, what we got? 1.2 right and 0.8 down. Okay, so now the top of the D plane is the dynamic loft, 17.4, and the face angle, 0.9 left. So if you put a piece of paper on that, which way is that piece of paper leaning? Left. D plane tilt, 9.1 degrees left. So if it was a Manzella turn, sweet spot hit, the ball curves perfectly up this D plane and then falls out of the sky. Didn't quite do it. Didn't quite do it. Dang it. It would be, this thing would be over. We could go to some swing stuff. Why didn't it do it? Because the sweet spot didn't pass through the middle of the ball. The sweet spot. Which sweet spot? The middle of the club face, like TrackMan's got it like up there. They got like a, you know, a line like this, a line like this. No. You take this club head off and about this much shaft, and you give it to Johnny, and he'll find the sweet spot for you. May not be in the middle of, how many times are you going to be perfectly in the middle of the club head? Putters. Right? Okay, but it's there, it exists. Okay, so that sweet spot travels through the ball. In this case, it didn't travel right through the ball. And because of that, the D plane tilt is what the ball should have done, because that's what I did with the club, was 9.1 left, but the spin axis, that's what the ball actually did, was 7.7 left. So that means I added a little bit of cut gear effect. Did it cut? Hell no. I moved it toward cutting 2.4 degrees. So that means the sweet spot was heel side a little bitty bit, and it threw the D plane off a little bitty bit. Now, what the hell difference does that make? Well, here's a couple things. So there's a perfect example right here. Sweet spot hit versus toe side set. So let's just say we get a club head, side out path, zero face. Right in the sweet spot. So all of a sudden, that sweet spot. Oh, all you need is Dr. Scholl's. You don't need TRACKMAN. All you need is Dr. Scholl's. See? Hit it in the middle of the club face. Guess what, though? Because this cat swung 7 degrees inside out, that damn middle of that center of gravity passed through this side of the ball. So effectively, that was a very slight heel side strike. So on inside out paths, the inside out pass, the sweet spot moves effectively toward the toe, even though most people who swing inside out hit it in the heel. And then on outside in pass, even though most of those guys hit it on the toe, the sweet spot moves toward the heel. Now, just to prove that you don't have to do everything exactly perfect to make money, David Thomas made $47 million playing golf official, not even with one nickel of endorsements, and there was more than one nickel, and probably averaged one left path and a little toe side, and that ball just goes so straight that even I can make some of those putts. Okay, so now that whole thing gets really exaggerated if the head is bigger and the CG is way back from the middle of the face. So now you see a nine inside out path with a marked head from the TaylorMade tour department, perfectly in the middle of that marked head hit, but because it was 9 inside out, hey, that's a toe side strike. That's like a toe ball right there. I don't understand why that ball hooked. Look at it, it's hit in the sweet spot. I got a bad head, I need an injector, hot melt. Why do they call it gear effect? Easiest way to think about it is you hit the ball on the toe, it slows the toe down, speeds the heel up, so the ball moves toward the heel and picks up some right to left-ish spin. Same as this, moves the toe this way, moves the heel, and it kind of has a gearing effect. TRACKMAN numbers, looking at it, y'all know all this stuff. This is for goofballs, but this is kind of neat to look at it from this angle. Here's a one of those Instagram Joe Mayo shots. 40 dynamic, 12 down. Okay, you're trying to do the spin loft. Okay, and the launch angle. People do this on the launch angle. They'll go, okay. They forget that this was 12 down, and they go, dynamic loft was 40, ball launched 20. So it launched 50% toward the face. But no. The angle of attack was 12 down. So this is 53 degrees and this 21 is 63%. This is a real shot. I mean, I hit the shot. So launch angle was 21. I delivered 40. I hit down 12. And it was, there's your 63 degree. 63% toward the face. Yeah. Ben Doyle, Michael Jacobs, Steve Katieb, Dr. Nesbitt. Okay. So this stuff is, I'm going to give it to you real basic and really important. Okay. We had this last night with Hack Motion. User frame versus the world frame. Right? So if I had a Hack Motion sensor on, right, and it's pointing, right? So we'll see it when we do some Hack Motion. It calibrates as soon as I start the club back. So it's pointing pretty much to those guys over there with the hats. All right, so now, if I user frame turned my body this way, like this, but kept this pointing right to your tour visor, I user frame supinated my left arm, even though this thing didn't move. World frame didn't rotate. Hack Motion rotation, just as a sidebar, is world frame. You can't do that when you're doing club kinetics because of that little example I showed you before. If I bang the club this way, it does one thing. If I turn it this way, it does something altogether different. So the frame has to be, if I'm going to push and pull and twist on the club, the frame of reference has to be virtually mounted on the club, like we do it like an airplane. So this is 90 to that. One of my airplanes. I was going to do that for y'all. I feel bad. So, score lines on the face, alpha axis. Right? Axis, not alpha torque, alpha axis. The wings, beta axis, perpendicular to the score lines. About the shaft, gamma axis. So you can't figure out what's what. Not that you need to know. Here's the point of this way I'm going to show you all today. The terms are irrelevant. You could say, this axis is Johnny Miller, this axis is Matt Kuchar, and this axis is Ken Green. Doesn't matter. Along the shaft, about the shaft, with the score lines, across the score lines. That's kind of how I do it in a lesson. Around the shaft, with the score lines, across the score lines, or force across the shaft. It's beta force, negative or positive, but you don't need the terms, but what the hell, right? So forces and torques, okay? Example of a force, we were doing this before with this thing, you push on something or pull on something, that's a force. You take something like a doorknob and you twist it, torque. It's that easy. Not any more complicated than that. Okay, now, here's the whole complication. Damn complications. Blue tape. I had it.
It's on the alignment right on your back.
No, it's John's back. But I hit the driver straight. No spin. I mean, they had like, a couple of them had like 1,200, I guarantee you. This is how you do the center of mass of the club. You don't have to do it with the bird. You can use any finger. And it's not there. It's slightly this way because of all this L shape. So we'll do kind of a quick and dirty like this. It's probably at the top of this little thing. Okay. So if I force this at the mass center, I don't know how many times in a golf swing you're going to grip it up here. All it would do, force would just translate the club if you did that. You'd push on it and it would just move from point A to point B. If you take a sofa, like I was doing, sofa chair, and the center of mass in the middle of it, and I get behind it and I perfectly push it, it goes dead straight. Okay. Push at the center of mass. But in golf, if I want to torque something at the center of mass, it looks like this. And really easy to torque at the center of mass. But in golf, you're creating force at the grip or torque at the grip, so it's at a distance from the mass center. So now, when you force something, you might get some translation. That little blue thing went up a little, right? But it also made the club rotate because the mass center's here. It rotated this way. So that created some translation and rotation, just a force. Now, some of the moments. So I could do the push that made this go up a little bit and rotate, the head rotated down, and I could do it with no torque, that would do that. I could do it and torque it so that it does it worse, right? Or I could torque it so that instead of doing this, it just went straight up. So we know if I apply just the force this way, and the club didn't do this, I had to also torque it this way. If you balance those out, the sum of the rotators, the combination of those two, if it works like it didn't rotate, then the sum of the moments, or the sum of the rotators, is 0. If if it should have did this and it did it a little bit less, it's some of the moments it's still negative, but it's less negative. And then if you torqued it and made it go that way, it'd be positive. Bunch of alpha torque stuff. So if you this is one of my early slides, like really early, you know, when we first got the software. But this is good. This is from Gears. This is somebody tour player swing. And what I did was I went, okay, this guy's swing looked like this. It was here. It was like normal, like angle right here. Normal, starting to release it like this, and perfect impact. What if just from 2D this way, he never rotated the club around the clock? Instead of these pictures looking like I just posed, that's where he'd be in impact. This was actually his impact picture, but this is the club over here, like not rotating. So obviously he added rotation to it, right? And you can see if you just purely rotated a club from the top, it wouldn't really move. It would just rotate, right? Just a way to look at it. Okay, so when you teach with this, you have to teach with the airplane. But if you're trying to understand how the swing works, if I trying to get my hands forward, Mr. Manzella, trying, right? So you're putting force across the shaft, which you're going to need to get this, right? And the ball is going right, it's pretty easy. But what if you're doing this and the ball's not going right? You probably had to torque this that way to square the club up. So you're just looking at the swing and you're going, when this swing goes like that, not close enough to the mic. Oh no. Yeah, no big deal. No biggie. The most sensitive mic in all of the JC video world. So, you know, like it's kind of like a Matt Wolf swing, right? So how did that club do that, right? How did it get back on plane, okay? Go to the top there, James. So I've already started doing something. So back it up a little bit. So like right there is probably like the real end of the backswing, okay? So if I just swung at it from there like normal, right, and created draw a line through the middle of my hands to the ball, from the ball to through the middle of my hands, straight up past everything. Okay, so you see where the mass center is, right? It's on the club, you know, a few inches above. Remember when we did the balance point? So it's over there on that side of the line. So if all I did was forced it right down that green line, the mass center would try to line up with the force, and the club would 2D shallow some, but it didn't quite do that. Watch what it actually did. Didn't go right down that green line. Ooh, I'm doing something right there, right? So what I'm doing right there, hold that right there. I changed this angle from like this to this, and it didn't look like I pushed that way on it at all. So show that again. Did it really look like I pushed? You know, because everybody's saying if you want to shallow the club, again, they're talking in 2D, that you would push this way, right? I'm not saying it wouldn't do that. I'm just saying, does it look like, as James plays this back, that's what made that club do that? That I pushed this way on it? No, there was zero friggin' translation, and there'll always be some translation. So I torqued it to do that. I had practiced it before. It's not the first time I ever did a loopy swing, and I added some torque. Now, from there, move that green line, if you can grab it at the top. Or you can just draw another one. It's easier, right? Right through the midpoint of my hands now. So now that it's closer to the mass center, right? Closer to the mass center. If I just went down that green line now, forcing it, pulling it, and pushing it down that green line. The club wouldn't 2D shallow any more than that. Okay, let's see. So does it really look like I'm pushing outward and the club is falling behind me? Or does it look like I'm making it fall? I'm making it fall. Right? Now there's other forces and torques going on from other angles, but I mean the point is you can so-called shallow the club with no pushing your hands out. You don't have to do this move to shallow it. You could just I'm not doing it right now. Yeah, I'm asking
who tries to shallow the club by going. I've never heard that before.
Oh, it's a common internet.
Really?
Yeah.
To go out?
Yeah. You're going to force it out, and then that's going to make the club. And it would. It would. Look, it would. But also this thing that I'm forcing and this mass center are going to translate this way a bunch to get that club to lay down. To lay down.
Is that the Norin practice move? Kind of. When he's laying it off and keeping it more. You know they say leave the hands up.
Well, I understand that, but that might no. I'm not again. If I make this swing, good. Let's get that off. Get those lines off of there. Good question. This is one of our patterns from a couple minutes down the road here after we take a break. So that one had a little bit of that in there, right? So that one had, on purpose, I tried to shift out the club or carry it out a little bitty bit, and you saw there was a little bitty bit of force across the shaft, and my hands moved out a little, and the center of mass probably moved out a little, and then it started rotating to try to catch the line of force, which if it was straight across like this, the thing would eventually fall all the way like that. And I guess that's what he's doing. He's holding the club up like this, and he's doing this, right? And he's doing his little. He's keeping the club up, and yeah. And I mean that's fine. I mean I've taught that drill to different people. So now let's do this. I don't know if John got me.
So you can see the TRACKMAN in the video.
The timing is
Here, let's do it again.
in TV. It's all about hitting your mark. Yeah, I hit a good shot trying to put about 500 pounds of force across the shaft. That's more likely the shot. If I did that move, that would happen. Hold it right there. So right there, at that point in time, now draw that arrow, the arrow, perpendicular to the shaft. No, on the one on the left, sorry.
Okay.
Through the midpoint of my hands, perpendicular to the shaft.
So.
Go up to the midpoint of my hands,
Okay.
but draw an arrow from left of the shaft through the midpoint of my hands to the right of the shaft.
Through the.
No. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Okay. So that's force across the shaft. Okay. All right. Okay. So now the question is, I want you to go like 2 frames forward and tell me, does it look like I'm still applying some force across the shaft?
For sure.
You go back a couple frames and go back and through a couple frames. I mean,
Looks like it.
yeah, hell yeah. If you didn't have a room full of golf people, if you just went to one of those places where y'all work out and just got the smart guys in the room, and just said, does it look like he's still pushing on the handle? Like, they wouldn't even. They're making people push and pull on things all day long. That's your job. They go, absolutely. They got people out there. The alpha war is you have to be going the other way at that point with the force, which is obviously not what's happening in that swing, right? That's why I have so much forward lean, because the angular response to this force across the shaft is it makes the club go this way, so it, you lean it further, or you lag it more, or whatever, right? And it catches up at some point when that center of mass of that club, which is obviously behind the midpoint of my hands right now, gets on the other side, right, a couple frames from now. The ball is going to slow it down a little bit. When that center of mass, one more frame, gets on the other side of my hands, it's hard to keep up with it now. Right? I'm not saying I was pushing on it. We've never seen one golfer from here where you start applying, in a normal swing, that you start applying force across the shaft right here to impact. We've never seen one golfer, and we've done some Manzella ridiculous trials. We got a song, ridiculous trials, ridiculous trials. I did one time where I ran into the screen. I went like this to try to keep, I was trying to make the radius 30,000 feet. But the point is, we've never seen anybody not lose some of the magnitude. It's because the club's got some energy and it's hard to completely keep up with, but doesn't mean you're not doing it, or you couldn't watch video it, this drill, common drill, right? Did one last night, the open hand. I came off through. Hope you didn't get it because I wasn't close enough. Okay. Good, I'll flush one. I did a Gene Sowers in left hand. I did a baseball grip left hand. It was easier to put the hand on the club. It's even good that I didn't hit it good. It's actually good, right? Because I was trying to push harder than I would in the drill, right? Whoa. How in the world did that thing not get away from me? If I couldn't push against the shaft right there, I have no chance to keep my hand on it. I'm going to tell you why I have no chance. Because I had this little crappy contact right there to slow down the club head. And still, when the mass center got on the other side of my hands, it's gone, pecan. It's out of my hands. And I tried as hard as I could to keep it on all the way. So, what you can ascertain from that is a couple things. One, they were full of shit the whole time. They were bluffing. The so-called other side of the alpha war. The man upstairs will take care of that. That's not my business. And the other thing is that if somebody can do the open hand drill and not lose the club, they're using their left hand to reverse alpha torque it into their hand so that they can keep it up against that. Because if they just went free left wrist and right hand on the club, it would disappear over here 100 times out of a million. Unless maybe you stuck the ball in a divot and tried to bang down it like a Joe Mayo pitch shot, right? So that's one way to look at. So what we learned is in chasing all of this stuff is a few things that did not exist. Jacobs has got to get about 95% of the credit. I'll get 5. I'll take 5. So here's one of them. We were dealing with this yesterday in his takeaway, okay? He has a very good takeaway by modern standards. Nobody wants to see the poor little club head get on this side of the hands. His club head's on this side of his hands. How does that club head do that? You applying a force, so there's the alpha axis, from underneath the club, alpha, it turns out that this happens to be positive alpha force, negative alpha force. You're applying positive alpha force to help you lift the club up. You're also probably, see, because if I just did that, I'd get some more of that. I get my handle up, but I'd lose this. I get a little beta torque this way. So force from underneath the shaft and toe up torque to get your takeaway position. Because otherwise, if I didn't do that, I did this takeaway, which is a little bit of torque this way and a little bit of force that way. If I did neither of those, Same hand position, same mid-hand position. I get that. I didn't have enough of this or this to keep the club where yours is. So if you want the club not to go wrapping around some golfer, which I'd say most teachers don't want it, and I teach more inside than most for regular golfers or draw pattern people, still don't want the club staying around your knees right there, the knee plane. You need force from underneath the shaft. Now here's the funny thing about the force from underneath the shaft. One of those bands I could probably stretch off of my left leg like this.
You want one of the skinny ones or one of the thicker ones?
Well, I'm not that strong now. I'm an old man. I'm weak.
This will work.
Oh, really? So if I stretch the band from underneath, right, the same alpha force, turns out that you can't get the club to the top of the swing that way. Sucker. Trying to figure out where would be the safest place for that. I've been working on the railroad. There's a device that Karen Palacios Jensen sells that has a training grip on it and a yellow band. The best thing for this. If anybody needs her contact info. Great product. Okay, so I'm going to step a little bit more like this. Okay, so I am applying the force from underneath the shaft, and if I keep doing that, that would be the top of my backswing position. So that's not what happens. Turns out there's an alpha force switcheroo. Obviously, that's a Manzella term. Switcheroo. From underneath the shaft, you switch to what was the top of the shaft at address. See where the switcheroo happened there? Right.
It's on the hack bucket when we saw that ramp
Yes.
halfway back.
Yep. That's how you would correlate that. Because you're getting the mass center on this side, so you gotta go. Now, you don't want to fall off the face of the earth. You drop it too much, like my second lesson yesterday. You keep applying the alpha force and carry your hands out. You're not going to swing his inside out doing that and switch it later. Now, what tour players do, so there's a backswing alpha force switcheroo and a downswing. If you really want to lag it more, keep the force on what was the top of the shaft as long as you can before you late scoop it up, right? And make the club go down. Good players learn when they start applying the underneath force to get the club to come down. They know how to torque it the other way to keep the thing from being a toe down mess, which somewhat shows up in hack motion as recocking. The software 11 years ago. It turns out that action, that obviously comes from the body more than the club, but it gets into the club because you're holding on to it. It turns out that it's needs to be very proportional to how fast the club alpha rotates around the clock like this. So, I don't know if you ever saw this guy, Ari Ball. He was the oldest living, for a while, the oldest living, I think, played in the first Masters. And he was still kind of pretty spry at like 98. And they trotted him out to the PGA, the last PGA teaching summit that was in Port St. Lucie, and he did a clinic. And he striped his driver like it was nuts. Right? So I'll be Mr. Ball. This is my best Harry Ball. How much drunk off the back did he do?
0.
Pretty good shot though, right?
Yes.
For a guy swinging 51 miles an hour, 80, 98 years old, whatever he was. Look at that impact position. Perfect, right? We're going to talk about that in a second, that swing. What would have happened if he would have went to Johnny and Keith's trainers and got to where he couldn't throw Manzella off his back, put a little heavy stuffed monkey. He could get the stuffed monkey off his back. What would happen to the ball, you think? 100%. So now, Mr. Ball, Oh, you're the guy with the drunk. Let's see. Right? He didn't even hit it. Right? So, but the harder guy, the guy, man, this little Manzella guy, he went, Mr. Ball didn't pivot. I'm not going to pivot. Right? It's not that I couldn't hit it straight or couldn't hit it far, but it would probably do that because I just basically couldn't do this enough to get the ball in the air. Let me do another airy ball shot. So I don't make James go find it. Actual airy ball shot. Right? Yeah. I'll get one more. Yeah, went too far left. Sorry, Mr. Ball. His left-hand grip was weaker than mine. So I'm going to weaken it.
Okay.
Wasn't really that bad, though. So go back to impact. Okay, it overdrew a little, right? No big deal. 18 feet in the air. So it might have hit a green. Look at impact. Okay, so there's impact. Doesn't Instagram love that impact? Guess what? Height. What's the height?
12 feet.
So 61 miles an hour. Go to the optimizer, and let's see what old Frederick Tuxon has for us right here. It says I need a launch angle of 16 degrees, right? To hit it instead of 83 yards in the air and boing, 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 boing off every green at Costa Mesa. I could have hit it 112 in the air if I just would have launched it at 16. So let's see what I can do here. Put it back on regular. All right, every ball. Better, right? Hey, they gave me the famous blue background. So stop that impact. So all you folks who may be watching this clip on Be Better Golf, you see the difference between the two impacts? Put that last one on the right. Put the face on to the last one on the right. And get them both to impact. Yeah, I mean, the one on the right might be, it might look prettier on if you have your own Instagram page, but at the end of the day, go one frame further forward. Yeah, the one on the left hit a better shot. Matter of fact, almost 20 yards. Oh, I don't swing like Harry Ball. Okay, yeah, but unless you swing like Harry Rudolph, you probably don't need to be leaning it forward. That's right there. And most people are trying to lean it forward in a way that you better be Bryson, or the ball is just going to be an unplayable mess. And so forward lean has to be relative to the shot you're trying to hit. And I don't know anybody that, would. I mean, just think about that. That's 100 yards from the hole. Let's say he's playing a hole that's 125. He's got to land that on the front of the green or the front apron to get it near the 125-yard pin. In a perfect world, I would even try to teach him to hit a high cut to be able to stop it on the green at that distance, right? So it would have probably less. If I hit the high cut, watch, just do one more, James. So I guarantee every ball would go, how far is that hole, Johnny? 124, okay. Don't go over the green if you can, Mr. Ball. I got a couple shots now. I played in the Masters. Right, now remember, he would have probably aimed left enough, and that ball went a little short, but it launched much higher, so guess what? The club passed my hands even sooner. How do you think it's going to have more loft? It's the only way to do it, right? So at the end of the day, the one in the middle was probably the best of the shots, and it had the shaft almost perfectly straight up and down. So that's one of the other things we learned. Not only does forward lean, this is not a Jacobs 3D thing, but TrackMan thing. Not only does forward lean maybe overrated in general, most people don't have enough club head speed to get the lean they're trying to do and posing on the range. And you do not have to lean the club forward or take giant divots to hit really good iron shots. I told a guy yesterday that Michael Jacobs' star pupil name is Pei Chen. Hard to say. We don't call him that. We just say, hey, Chen. Chen, who's won 3 of his last 5 college tournaments, is playing one in Hawaii. He's in contention. He's in 4th place. Is the best iron player in the world right now, in my opinion. I've never seen anybody hit irons better than that except for David, and he hits it further than David did. By a lot, because you have to now, right? So he has very little, his swing's all over the internet. You go to Jacobs 3D or Michael Jacobs' page. Very little forward lean. So you say, well, how does he, very little of that look, right? But his chest is more forward, right? So that gets, the look looks less this way, but the club is leaned forward enough, so if he's swinging a 5 iron, probably 100 miles an hour, 101, it 105 foot high, 110, what everybody's doing on tour anyway. The 90-foot thing went away. So that's another one. And this thing right here, you really want to let up to not lean it too far forward. You can talk about, oh, okay, damn, I've been practicing this. Manzella says on Be Better Golf, he says, don't do this, do more of this. How do I do it? You have to learn to let up on that. You can practice that. You can practice letting up on the force across the shaft. Like that. So you,
Like don't drive force across the shaft all the way through impact.
right. So what you get out of this action, I try to make my normal swing and do this thing that y'all don't know is coming, but you see a lot of times in golf. Would it hurt to stop it like that? But I 100%, I overcurved it, but watch impact here. So, the Moradders and the stack and tilters who are golfing machiners at heart, right, have figured out by hook or crook that you can overlean it, even though you don't really want to talk about it very much. And they work on this deceleration kind of through the ball action because, well, you had to start doing it before impact. Yeah. And look at me. Did I hit the brakes like Fleetwood? No. I'm popping, bouncing around all over the place, breaking my hand. But the point is, the people who can stop it, they really decelerate this, and the club lines up better. You're trying to get the icing from the donuts that I didn't eat in San Francisco because I ate enough other stuff. Off this club. Okay, so there's the club at the top. That's alpha torque, right? Beta force and beta torque that way. It's very easy in transition. How many of y'all in the wild, not necessarily somebody that took a lesson from me, have seen somebody at the top of the swing do that from the top? Yes. Every single one of us. It wouldn't take us that long at Costa. Might have to wait for the second group that's on the practice team. Because you can have some of the moments alpha. That means rotate the club alpha early in the downswing. You can win. You can force it this way and torque it this way, and that's a double win. Some of the moments alpha positive. Everybody, yes, stacking totals. Even the guy you have on video doing this loses. They can't torque through the pull down by the ball. So, put it on driver, Jake. If I hurt myself, tell my wife I love her. I knew. See, my driver, I can almost like keep it on the planet. I lost bad to some of them. I pulled so hard,
yeah.
I couldn't torque through it enough.
Yeah.
I needed to slow my body down like every ball. So watch the overhead play back. Now, granted, in this swing, like if I was Superman and if I was Superman, I'd go play. But I would show you a bad transition in that, right? I'd do that little over move and then pull this off. But watch right about there, okay? Right about there, a little bit later. couple frames, definitely right, one more frame. Definitely right there, you're gonna lose, meaning you're gonna have more force across the shaft than you can torque to beat the force across the shaft that's making the club head want to go this way, right? If I push this way on the head, the center of mass is right there, this is gonna go down. I'm not gonna be able to win. Watch this. Y'all saw how hard I tried to win. I'm getting my butt behind kicked right there. So even though it was a pretty good swing, right? 2.4, I mean, geez, I thought all that was 95 miles an hour, all that, but, you can do this for 2 hours and see what happens to you. Even though that was a reasonable path and angle of attack, that ball went, oh boy, sorry over there, I'll buy you a sweater, it's $500 over there. 9.2, right? So yes, that person exists. I see him all the time. He's the athletic, not young anymore,
Right.
but he ain't this piece of human.
So what would be one or two things, depends on how the grip is and some other things, but that you found to be effective in kind of overcoming that?
Okay, go play that one back and go to the top of the backswing, from both angles. Just sink them in. Because I tried to make like a backswing I wouldn't make if I was trying to hit that shot. I tried to lay it off a little bit, right? So the first thing would be if I put that club pointing straight right there, straight for, like if you go to the midpoint and draw a line and draw it straight at the target, right? Just like straight up. No, straight up. It would be a club. A club that was less laid off.
So parallel to the target line?
Yeah, just draw a vertical line straight up from my hand. Yeah, if that club was right there, that ball would not go as far. Because why? It's already losing. Okay? It's losing to the hands already some in that position. So if it was losing less, then all the same action, even though I would have lost, everybody loses.
You'd lose less.
So you have to do all your planning. You would lose less because you started the race. You started the race 20% more toward winning. Right. So that would be the first thing. So now watch me come down right here. One more frame. 2 more frames. Okay, draw an angle. The angle that's to the right. No, the one to the right. From just inside the ball through the butt of the club, 42.8 or something close. Because that's the swing plane that TrackMan said I was on. No, but draw it through the shaft, draw it up in the air, and try to get it around 42 and a half or whatever.
Okay.
Okay, so see how far my hands are on one side of that line, and the club head is kind of on the line? I'm losing. It's the same thing, right? It's just another way from this angle. This is losing to this guy.
Yeah.
Because, right, if James O, I'm talking about somebody with a funny grip, got the club right here at that point, right there at that point, where do you think he's going to hit it?
Yeah. Now,
It ain't going to wind up on my golf course at that first hole. It's supposed to be.
would you ever kind of give him your famous tumble?
Well, yeah, but that's what this guy needs, right? So this guy is here, right? And he needed more of this, which is just positive, more alpha. He needed less pull and more pump. So that would be one, right, at the top. 2 would be, it's the same thing. This is this, and this is this, but he might start pulling harder right here. You go, whoop, he needs to torque it the other way. So he needs more alpha torque at that point to have his hands lower and the club head higher. And then down by the ball, I like putting a noodle.
Here's one over here. Where is it?
This is fine. This is fine.
Let's get on the shelf.
Can I borrow you?
Okay, go ahead.
Hold it right here and hold this like this. Like read the putt from here. Like I was doing. Promise not to hit you. Right? So what I did was, it's very cheap trim made. First of all, I have the disc from Y Golf, the heavy ones. They're great. And then one of the holes in there, they're all marked. One of them doesn't have anything on it, means 90 degrees. You stick, what you get is you get a alignment rod, and you stick it into something that's the size of whatever size noodle. So you get a male that's obviously bigger than the alignment rod. That's a little bit, teeny weeny bit bigger than the diameter of the inside of whatever noodle you use. Not more than 1.5 inches from the alignment rod. So the alignment rod piece, pecker, sticks in the female Y Golf. The male, bigger piece, wooden dowel, whatever you stuck in that thing, sticks in the noodle, and the noodle works like this gentleman holding the noodle. But there's nothing there. If you kicked it with all your might, you might hurt your leg the same way you're kicking air, but that ain't hurting. So you could take a driver and have a guy swing 100 miles an hour and do that to it, and it'll fly all over the studio. They ain't hurting him, the club, or anybody else. Might hurt his feelings, right? Because what you want to do is put the imaginary ball right here. You'd like to go somewhat around that.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
So that Manzella right there. He got no chance to get the club over there. And how are you gonna get the club over there? Well, watch this. If this is the over there you want, right? Or the over there you want, bring that back. Oh, as far around to the top as you can. You can see I was here. I need to go to there. And I start having drills where they're doing this action. It's not just tumble, it's just a lot of alpha rotation. So that by the time they get over there, thanks so much, they swing around the, I call it past the post. They used to mean knocking a brother out, you know, boom, he passed the post with that dude, right? So I call that swinging past the post. But apparently when you Google past the post, it must have been a local thing. Nobody else.
Could you try the after? Would you mind trying the after swing?
Oh yeah.
So that was the force across the shaft. You lost the battle.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So what would I do? So he's, we're going, okay, Mr. Faversham, we're going to go more in between your arms here, slower body, so you don't see, you have a chance to win with the slower body, a little longer, and then keep your chest more Nicholas-like, so that
So you can pass.
you can decel this faster, and then you can pass that easier. There we go. Again, not my pattern.
That's gotta get a new tee.
Unbelievable. I'll pick that
There's
up.
another tee just there.
Come on.
Sorry.
Another. Really good. Go. Got it?
Yep.
It's going to be, ridiculously different in a lot of places.
Didn't get the swing.
Okay, we do another one.
Sorry.
Super hard with this driver. All I did with this driver on the golf course was just I aimed between the museum and the RNA clubhouse. Just had a little push cut right down the middle of the fairway. I was like the white Calvin tee. The only fairway I missed, you can't hit it straight on that dog leg on the front nine. It's going to go through the fairway. That was it. Only bogey I made. Sort of like a soft draw pattern, but not exactly.
He's stuck on the back.
Oh, one. So if I did this,
Yeah.
the butt of the club would track up this way. So people who handle drag, the butt of the club never points down the driver. If you pass the post, it tracks more right side of the range, or 18th hole here at St. Andrews is toward the target. That would be the last piece of the puzzle. Damn driver.
Did it work? Okay.
That's the shot I hit on the golf course trying to draw. Because it had 1,579 spin. I'm waiting for 2028, babes.
There we go. That looked good.
That was nice there.
Yeah.
I mean, the swing direction was 12 degrees, and so that path was 8. But what his impact looked like. The first thing is we were trying to show handle dragging and losing late. And this, I lost a lot less. So look at my wrist right there. All I tried to do was throw that club around that boot.
Yeah.
So you see, that's the thing that people really don't want to talk about. And you would think, I think you would get out of right front ball right there. He would want you to have the shaft straight up and down right there. Not like this. Perfect time. Any questions? Morning session. Get to the.
I have a quick question you might have gone over before I got here.
Fine.
When you were doing the D plane, and you're going to give a lesson on TRACKMAN, how much of a primer or a recap to the student do you give? Okay.
Never.
You don't tell him like
No.
what makes the ball curve or what? Yeah.
No, let's say that was his first shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a typical first shot. Move that mouse, James.
Where to?
Pretty good play. No, right, just it was on the 2.2,
Oh.
right? So there's a decent player comes in, 74 mile an hour, 5 iron, right? Overcuts it. Look at path, 2.2 left, face 4.5 right. I don't say the deep plane tilt is 14.9. The ball is going right. You just see that see those numbers. I might even be very honest with you. I would say, Mike, tell him the path number. Because he had decent angle of attack for that club head speed. I'd say, okay, we're gonna fix that shot. You may never do it again. But never.
They don't need to understand the face bends at the path, face bends at the face bends. Yeah.
Just basic face the path stuff. They might not even have to know that. The golfer only needs to know what they need to know. Now, you get somebody saying, I really don't understand why. I never heard my hand. Boy, that hurt. That stopping that thing with no logo. Oh. Let's go. This part here. Okay. Tried to hit a straight ball. I did my job. I hit a little on the weird part of the club. So I hit like a super heel cut, even though I had 0 path and 0 club. So you would tell that guy. So you said, I don't understand. I spent $30,000. I bought TRACKMAN. I got the 4-year warranty. I did everything. I practiced in my garage. I got a little setup like this, not as fancy as yours, John. But I got the 0-0. I watched the videos, Brian, and damn, all I do is hit hooks. Well, you see, Mr. Fabersham, you know you contacted that ball 19 millimeters toward the heel and 7 up. You've got a ton of gear effect there. A ton of gear effect. And so that's why you get the face at 0 and a path at 0 and basically a draw, right? An overdraw, because it's just a funny hit. It's so far in the heel that even though you would think the gear effect would go one way, it just closes the face so much. It's like the override, super heel shot that overrides all the spin axis and just super closes stuff. You've seen it a million times, right? You hit the guy who hits the ball like this. Even though that face was 100% closed at impact, the ball cut. Look where the ball was hit. Right, so it's just sort of like it's an override, right? Yeah, the spin axis was just a little left, blah, 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 but the ball goes right. Right? So Mr. Fabersham was hitting on the opposite spot of the club, and I got to go in there and figure out what's wrong with the swing. But a primer or any of that, or telling them the difference between beta. Now, I might say you got too much force across the shaft. We got to learn to take some of that out. Yeah, but negative beta force, which is nah. Now, Every now and then, you get a super eager. They bought the books, they know all the lingo, and they want it. They want it all. I got a list of questions. You had those guys? A list of questions? I love them. Right? So, then you would, say, deep plane tilt, don't understand. Okay, here we go. One stick like this, another stick. See that? Deep plane tilt. But the ball went that way. Well, then because you get the heel and you get it back.
I got a question.
Yes.
And then it'll come back.
Of the male golfers that you get coming in front of you that are good athletes or once good, one time good athletes are strong. How many of them do you find have more force across the shaft versus not? Would you say force across the shaft is a common thing with better athlete golfers? Let's say
So
baseball
the
players.
So everybody I think in golf that's in this business that we're in got this bump. Please tell me if you didn't. COVID. People start coming for lessons. They go, I'd like a lesson. What's your name? Pete Smith. Hi, Mrs. Smith. When you want to come out? Tomorrow at 10. Okay. 35 years old, pretty wife, 2 kids, 1 puppy. Used to play when I was younger, gave it up in college. Had a couple kids, definitely had no chance. But COVID, started playing with my buddies, got hooked again. And the guy would be, sight unseen, second pick in the pickup basketball game at the YMCA. I'll take the guy with the black hair over there. Really nicely put together, had black hair. Come on over here. Too much. All levels. Driver. So it turns out, go on the left and make the left the overhead key.